Well, hello, retro game players. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Marcus. Today we're going to be covering the top 10 retro-styled remixes and collections with a physical release for the PS4. So go mix yourself some Kool-Aid, add some extra sugar in that, and get ready to bust through a wall. Oh, yeah! Okay, so right off the bat, I want to thank you guys for helping get this channel over 5,000 subscribers. It's insane to me to see that it actually got this huge. I'm so thankful. I'm very grateful to you guys. So if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. I really appreciate it. There's lots more videos like this. And if you missed the 5,000 subscriber special, check that out. It's an original synthwave style theme that I came up with. I used footage from Steel Battalion and just kind of made it like this 80s sort of soundtrack. So if you're into that stuff, check it out. I'm gonna link that here. Now this is the second top 10 PS4 game list. The first one was sort of a general overview of the retro releases that have a physical release. This is going to be all retro styled remakes, remixes, and collections. So it's a huge list. These are all physical releases. I will also say that most of these are available digitally. Okay, so if you can't find it, just look it up on the PSN network and sometimes Steam or even for the Switch. So it's not necessarily exclusive to Sony. Anyway, without further ado, let's launch right into it with the first one, number 10. Alright, so coming at the bottom of the list is a game that you can get for only 15 bucks for the physical edition, alright? So it should be easy to find. It has not sold very well from what I can tell, and that's great for you because I think it's worth every penny. Now this game originally came out in 1990 for the Sega Mega Drive, and it's part of the Assault Suit series, okay? So the Assault Suit series would also be like Cybernator on the Super Nintendo, which is an amazing game if you've never played that. It's one of my favorite Super Nintendo games. But this one is Assault Suit Leynosi, and it's actually a very good remake with updated visuals and music. It's basically ground-based. You're kind of this like heavy mecha warrior guy going along the ground. You've got different weapons. Before each mission, you can choose what kind of mission or which kind of weapons you want for the mission. You know, different cannons, that kind of thing. You do have to be a little strategic. When the action gets going, it gets really intense. The graphics are beefed up from the 1990 version for sure. However, there is like a retro style mode. So it goes back to like a slightly simpler graphic style and music if you want. So that makes it really cool too. All in all, this game will give you plenty of gameplay fun. It's frantic. Sometimes it's a little too crazy, but it's worth it. And for 15 bucks, I honestly don't think you can go wrong. So right there, that's number 10, Assault Suit Leynosi. Let's move up to number 9. Okay, so this game is a mix between a steampunk-style combat game and a western. Alright, and it was originally released in 1994 for the Super Nintendo by Natsume. Now, they worked on this game, which is Wild Guns Reloaded. Now, I'll tell you what, I like this game a lot, but the reason it's kind of far down here is because of the difficulty. Now, normally I don't complain about difficulty, but this is one of those games where you're going to be replaying the first few levels a lot until you memorize patterns, all right? So it's really cool in that sense, I guess, like it's that old Nintendo hard, but it also is like there's no continues really. I mean, you'll burn through all your guys real fast. There's no online multiplayer either, which is sort of a bummer, but it is still fun. The graphics are great, the music's great. You know, you can pick from 4 different characters. Each of those guys have different style weapons and attributes that help them. And as these characters are shooting at you, you know, you're going to be jumping all over the place, dodging, rolling. There's a dynamite character. Different upgrades are available. Lots of things are destructible. The bosses are insanely cool. Actually, really well done. So this version definitely is cool. However, I will say that I've heard the Nintendo Switch version may be a little better and a little more forgiving. All right, so if you have a Switch, you might want to look at that version instead. But if you don't mind the challenge, this is where it's at. I do recommend this one. That's why it's number 9. Let's move up to number 8. Number 8. All right, let's take a step back to 1992 for a second. Imagine you're a preteen adolescent and you hear about a game that's causing so much controversy, it's being banned in some stores, and tons of parents are freaking out. Senator Lieberman is basically imploding on Sega, saying they have no moral compass. Nintendo's after Sega as well. It's insane. A new rating system is created. All this over a crazy bathroom scene in FMV glory that's so grainy as you're watching it on the Sega CD, it's pathetic. Now, it was also released on the 3DO, but this is Night Trap, and it's a complete remaster with extremely high quality HD footage. Now, I love this game basically because of the charm that it has, all right? It's so 80s, it's so early 90s, it's like insane. The music, the acting, the hairstyles, and what's funny is with it being with the graphics being so upgraded and the visuals being so sharp, you know, I can actually play through it now without having problems. So I can see what's happening as you're monitoring these different screens. If you haven't played the game before, basically you're monitoring this house where these people are going to vacation, and it's getting a little weird. There's like these weird creatures walking around, and you're part of this team. In fact, it's the SCAT team, which is pretty hilarious. I think it's, Special Control Attack Team. And you're part of the SCAT team to try and capture each one of these people, these bad, I think they're called like OGs or something like that. And you have to actually capture them with different traps. So you have 8 different cameras, you toggle between each different camera, and you try and find them, and you stop them from creeping through the house and also killing people. All right, well, technically, whatever, capturing people. They're not even really killing anyone. But this game has been so upgraded from the original. So I have to say it makes it on this list, not just because of how faithful of a reproduction it is, but it's a complete upgrade. I mean, we're talking about HD footage, and it's just so crazy to play through it after suffering through the Sega CD's low filter quality of this stuff. So anyway, that's number 8. Let's move up to number 7. Number 7. So this next game was actually released in 1996. I played it originally on my PC running Windows 95 and an old school Pentium processor. It was basically a very cool first-person shooter. Previously, I had played things like Doom, Hexen, but when this came out, it was amazing, all right? And partly, it's because of the humor, the self-aware style, amazing gameplay, graphics, and really good level design. The soundtrack was amazing. It used an engine called the Build 3D engine, which went on to do games like Blood, Shadow Warrior, and I think even Redneck Rampage. So those games all had this similar look, which was really pretty polished and just, I don't know, just made really cool looking worlds. But of course, I'm talking about Duke Nukem. Now this is Duke Nukem World 3D Tour, the 20th anniversary. For this release, not only are the graphics polished and widescreen, soundtrack sounds great, but they've added new content, new levels, and in fact, they're even designed by the original designers. And they've also got a new track, a new audio track by the original composer. So not only is that cool, you know, but as you start playing through it, I'll tell you what, this thing is so addicting to play. I mean, if you ever played games like Doom and Quake and things like that, this is one of the best ones, just based on humor and, like I said, the self-aware sort of attitude that it comes with, you know. Duke is a force, man. I mean, he has some of the best quotes, some of the best gun and gameplay, just funny levels, funny things happen, and I don't know, I'm a sucker for this, you know. I'm so happy that they remastered it and made it look as good as it does, and it actually plays really good too. When it first came out, in fact, on N64, I bought that, played through the entire game, and loved it too. It wasn't quite as, I don't know, maybe R-rated as the PC version, but it still was really good. So anyway, Duke Nukem 20th anniversary. Definitely check this one out if you like these old school first-person shooters. Let's move up to number 6.
Number 6.
Okay, the number 6 game on this list was actually a Sony mascot. I believe he's still considered a Sony mascot, but he's not quite on the forefront like he used to be. When the first PlayStation came out, though, this is one of the first games I ever played. Of course, I'm talking about Crash Bandicoot. So this is the Sane Trilogy. It's all 3 games, at least on the PlayStation, and they are really polished. Like, they went through, and I'll tell you, you know what it reminds me of? It looks like the graphics have almost been upgraded to like a claymation. They're really smooth, really polished looking. I love the look of this upgrade. Some upgrades I really don't like, but this one looks awesome. The gameplay is spot on. You know, when I first played that game, Crash Bandicoot, on the PlayStation, it was one of the first PlayStation games I ever played. It had a very unique style and look to it. It was a really inviting sort of 3D platformer world. It wasn't like go anywhere like Mario 64 would eventually be, but it was still really fun and super challenging. I mean, it actually does get pretty tough, especially the sequel. But I like the sequel the most, with that said, but they're all here. All 3 of those games are here. They're all really well done. The music sounds great. You know, the whole attitude of this dude, I mean, I just love it. Like, what can I say? Crash Bandicoot was one of those games that I just really dig. I love playing platformers that require, you know, sort of you to just be spot on your jumping. But anyway, check this one out if you like Crash, or if you've ever played one of these games and thought, you know what, I kind of want these on my new console. This is a great collection. All 3 games are there. Check it out. Let's move up to number 5, but we've got a commercial break.
123 123でゲームが変わる123
12月3日プレイステーションを待て
Alright, so this one's going to take us back to 1989. This one is a crazy action RPG that was on the Sega Master System. And it's actually a great series. You guys know WonderBoy. Well, this is WonderBoy 3 Dragon's Trap. And I'll tell you, when this came out, originally it was pretty mind-blowing. Because the levels were not only creative, the way that they were built and the way you navigate through them, but also it had all these strange dynamics, you know, like as you go through the first level, you beat this dragon, right? And then after you beat the dragon, you become the dragon, like a little mini dragon. And as you beat each dragon, you get like new abilities and new unlocks of different characters. And so this version, this remake, has all hand-drawn animations, which is really pretty wild. And also a really cool orchestrated soundtrack. Now, what I like about this is that at any point, you can just hit a button and toggle to the old 2D sort of like, you know, 8-bit graphics and the soundtrack if you want. So you can be playing and just be like, well, what did this look like back in 1989? And you hit a little button and boom, you know, everything goes back. I think that's a really cool feature. The way this game is built is very cool. It's pretty challenging as you go through it. But like I said, each unlock that you get just helps you, different abilities, different characters basically. So you can turn into different animals. But the dragon is the first one you get. I just love this game. It's really well done. Now I'll tell you too, this was released and really hard to get. I can't remember, I think it was through limited run that it was really difficult. But I just got this one, which was off of PlayAsia. And it's the Chinese and English version, and it plays fine. So if you guys are looking for one, this is probably a less expensive version to get. And anyway, yeah, it's really cool. I mean, the back is all in Chinese and stuff, but it plays in English. And anyway, it's a great physical release of this game. Classic Sega style. Highly recommend this one. So there you go. That's number 5. Let's move up to number 4. So this next one is a game that came out on the Sony PlayStation. When I first heard about this, my friend called me up and said, hey dude, I just got this game over here. There's 2 girls over here. We've been playing this for like an hour. You got to get over here right now. So I busted ass, got over there, and we ended up playing that game like all day. Of course, it's one of the most charming games you'll find on the PlayStation. It has some of the most stylish characters, some of the best music, and I'm talking about Parappa the Rapper. Now, this one is extremely addicting to play as well, and can be pretty challenging. If you haven't played this before, you're following little Parappa the Rapper around. He's basically getting educated on how to rap, and it's just hilarious. Not only is it funny, but it's really fun. It is a rhythm-based game where you have to hit, X, square, triangle, R1, L1 in certain timings to proceed. And it's very similar. I don't like to mention Guitar Hero that much, but hey, Guitar Hero kind of took this and implemented it into their guitar. So if you're familiar with that game, that's very similar. As you're going, you'll move up to good or, excellent or whatever, and then you're doing bad, and then you're rapping awful, and if you do good on the next one, you'll move back up to bad. You have to place it good to progress by the last verse, basically. But it's so funny. Oh my god, this game just has always been one of those classic games that's just so fun to play. And the soundtrack, like I said, is so groovy. Another thing that I like about this remaster is not only are the graphics super polished, it's so polished, but they retained that old vintage look. It just looks so sharp. And the other thing is when you're playing on the PlayStation 4 controller, it's so cool to actually pick up like a PlayStation 1 controller and be able to play the game flawlessly. The controller hasn't changed in all these years, and the buttons are in the same spot. It's like so cool just to be able to pick up and play it like you did back in the late 90s. So there you go. That's Parappa the Rapper. Again, I actually got this one from PlayAsia as well, so I like to shop there when I can. But anyway, let's move up. We've only got 3 more games. What can they be? Let's check them out. All right, we've only got 3 left. This one is a compilation of many classic games in one. The very first time I saw, I'll say, one of these games, it was insane. At the arcades, I'm not kidding you guys. For those of you who were in arcades at this time, this machine had lines, and people would line up quarters to play whoever was losing. And I'm talking about Street Fighter 2. So this is Street Fighter, the 30th anniversary collection. And this has 12 games, all right? So we've got Street Fighter 1, which I remember playing once at a laundromat thinking this game really isn't that cool. I still, to this day, don't really like that game very much, but it's on here. Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter 2 World Tour, Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighting. Then you've got Street Fighter Alpha, 1, 2, and 3, and Street Fighter 3 with Street Fighter 3 Second and Third Impact. So, a huge amount of 2D games, and they're all the arcade ports. From what I can tell, they are very similar to the originals. I couldn't really tell any difference. I think they're great looking. There's also lots of different features. You can turn off filters, like monitor changes. If you want a classic TV or arcade monitor, you can make the screen wider or keep it normal. Anyway, the graphics are great. It's so fun to just boot it up and just watch the intros for each game. But to me, I'd say my favorite one out of this entire series is going to be Street Fighter 2 Hyper Fighting. That's the one that really captured me. As far as whoa, this is amazing. That game will always live on as one of my favorite games. I'm really into the Street Fighter franchise, but truthfully, Alpha is something I've got into. Third Strike I like, but nothing like the Street Fighter 2 series. Those are the ones that I really am passionate about. I love every character. I can pretty much play every character. Zangief is the one that I have a hard time pulling off his moves. But, brute force, whatever. Anyway, this is a great collection. Really impressed with this. I'm surprised at how good it is, considering how bad Street Fighter 5 was as far as when it first launched. That Capcom actually did a good job with this. So, good job, guys. Thank you for continuing to make something that I want to get. But yeah, this is a great collection. Highly recommend this one. So let's move up. 2 more. Let's move on to number 2. Alright, so for the number 2 game, I'm actually going to be cheating a little bit because this is 2 different games, alright? But they're clumping together because they're basically from the same universe. They're 2 different collections of the same legendary character. I'm talking about Mega Man, alright? So the first game is the Mega Man Legacy Collection. This is Mega Man 1 through 6. And then the other one is Mega Man Legacy Collection 2. This is 7, 8, and then 9 and 10, which were only released on the Wii. I love both of these games. Now, if I had to choose which one would officially be on this list, and if I could only choose one, I would choose the first game, all right? And that's because I'm a classic Mega Man fan. I mean, I can play Mega Man 2 all day long, Mega Man 3 all day long. I really even like the other ones too, don't get me wrong. I love them all. I love the old school character and the difficulty and just, I don't know, the gameplay itself. You guys know Mega Man. It's phenomenal. This is a great compilation. This one is also really impressive. And I'll tell you, I've beat the 9 and 10 on the Wii, and they're great. I mean, they're actually really well done. They're worth playing. If you haven't played those, this is how you get them physically. So, I don't know. I highly recommend these. These are amazing games. You know, what can I say? The soundtrack is absolutely legendary. Gameplay's legendary. The cool thing about these games too, you guys, is they're not very expensive, you know. They've pretty much retained, you know, their inexpensive value, you know, pricing when they first came out. And that's something that's just really cool. So, check these out if you like Mega Man. It's worth it. I mean, man, that's so many games. I recommend getting both. But again, if you're just going to get one, you can pick, but I would pick the first one. I think the first 6 are the ones worth playing the most, all right? So, okay, moving on, we've got one more game. I'm excited to tell you guys about it. Let's launch into it.
Number 1.
All right, so that was 9 awesome games. There's only one left. This one deserves to be here almost just out of the basis of how many games you get with it, all right? We're talking over 50 games on one disc. And it's you know, it's a bittersweet thing. I'll tell you about the bitter here in a second. The sweet thing about it, though, is it's over 50 Genesis games. I'm talking about the Sega Genesis Classics Collection. So, some of the games you get on this are Streets of Rage series, Altered Beast, Golden Axe, Rise Star, Phantasy Star 2, 3, and 4, Shining Force, Kid Chameleon, Revenge of Shinobi, Gunstar Heroes. I mean, it's absolutely insane. The amount of games that you get for this is just awesome. And to be able to play it on your PS4 with save states, so you can actually beat some of these games if you had issues when you were younger. I think it's really cool. You know, it's so fun to play these and have them be upgraded. You can change the filter, you know, to where it looks kind of like an old TV or like it's stretched out if you want. You know, all in all, this collection is absolutely fantastic. It's one of the best collections of retro games on any modern console I've seen. When you first boot it up, you basically are looking at this TV and a Genesis underneath it in this kind of vintage room. When you look over to your right, there's a bookshelf with all of your 50 games. And as you choose these, whichever one you choose, you actually take it out, the cartridge goes in the Genesis, which is really a cool touch. And then it boots up. And, you know, I mean, like Comic Zone, for example. I love that game. And just being able to play that on a new console with a wireless controller, save state so you can come back later and finish it if you want, even though the game's not that long. It's still very cool. Now, the one thing that's bitter about it is something that may not be an issue to some of you, but it has to do with online multiplayer. And the online multiplayer component of this game sucks. It sucks hard, okay? You're not going to get anything done. You can pair up with someone, and then you just suffer. It's laggy, you know, your characters go out of sync, it's dropping gameplay, music is all choppy sounding, it sucks. Maybe they'll patch it, I hope they do. But if you're just playing couch co-op, runs fine, you know? So that's my feeling on this game. It definitely deserves to be number one. Like I said, just out of the sheer volume of games that are on this collection. They really did a good job with that. So there you go, Sega Genesis Classics Collection. Over 50 games on this disc. Highly recommend it. All these games on this list are excellent. You know, they're all great collections. So there you go. Thanks for watching, you guys. Like I said, I have 2 more top 10 PS4 games coming out. One's on shoot 'em ups, one's on platformers. But yeah, let me know if you guys see any collections that I missed. Put them in the comments. I appreciate you guys watching, and until next time, you know what to do. You keep that shit retro by playing your Sega Genesis Classic Collection. Later on.